Okay, welcome to our, what is today? It's Wednesday edition of Panola Friday. I'm a little confused because Mrs. LeGrone is always here on Thursday, but we thought that we'd do a special presentation today and take tomorrow off. And speaking of taking a day off, the library will be closed today while your volunteers get a chance to prepare, I bet, their Thanksgiving meals for their families.
Yes, they are.
Well, Ms. LeGrone, welcome on our Wednesday edition.
Thank you, thank you.
I think we have a very special program coming up.
Well, I found some interesting things as I looked back.
I think you have, as you shared them with me before the program. One thing to remind our listening audience about, though, the genealogical library will be open on its regular hours starting Sunday.
Right. Just today is all we're taking.
You're just going to let them off one day?
One day, right.
The school teaching is
I'm
coming
pretty
back.
rough on them.
All right. What are we going to discuss today?
Well, I thought a suitable title for what we need to say is to be thankful. We need to be thankful. We have much to be thankful for. So let's just talk about that today.
Okay.
From the beginning up to now.
All right.
And, of course, I'm old enough that I'm tempted to remain with the beginnings, but we want to get up to present-day celebrations as well.
Sounds good. Well, let's kind of, the basic meaning of Thanksgiving.
The dictionary gives a definition, and I, after all these years, decided, well, just to go to American Heritage Dictionary, and it says that Thanksgiving is a national holiday set apart for giving thanks to God. You know, for us to have a holiday nationally giving thanks to God is sort of surprising in our modern day when they're fighting everything religious. And, I mean, groups are. It's a wonder we've kept it.
Right.
But we do still have a special day throughout the nation. It was not regulated as being legal at first, but now it is.
Can I ask you to search back into your study of history and tell us about the first
The beginning of it, all right. I think most people are familiar with the Pilgrims and their struggles for religious freedom. That's what it's all about. Freedom to worship as they pleased, and there were all kinds of limitations put on their worship services in England. And so these Pilgrims finally, and we won't go into their long story of searching for an opportunity to worship as they pleased, rather than for the Church of England to regulate them. They finally got enough of them together to come to America, and they had all kinds of trouble coming, and finally ended with just one seaworthy boat, and it wasn't very seaworthy, the Mayflower. And of course they sailed into all kinds of storms and what have you, and were pushed out of the way they were to go. They were supposed to land in Virginia. They did not. They landed in what we now know as Massachusetts. And it was a bleak shore in the winter. And so they started out by spending a winter before they'd had time to raise any food or do anything. And they'd been that long trip on many weeks crossing the ocean. And they were out of food, and what they had was spoiled. So they had an especially hard time. And when finally a year had passed, and I think we might just leap ahead and say they might not have had that successful year had they not made friends with some of the Indians, who were the original Americans, of course. And every school child studies about the two great Indian guides that did help them to know how to raise things in the new land. Squanto was one of them, and what was the other one? The two Indians that came to the Pilgrims and helped them. I wrote their names down so I'd remember. And then Samoset. They both spoke English, maybe a little brokenly, but they had dealt with fishermen on the coast before this. One of the interesting things about my going back and looking into the Pilgrims settling here was my placing my family in America, and my ancestors that I have traced directly to them got here 8 years after the Pilgrims.
Is that right?
The Pilgrims came in 1620. I've proven my father's lineage back to 1628. And farther back than that, but I mean in America that long. And so this has made it interesting. My ancestors were also for religious freedom, and during the time of leadership in the Maryland colonies where they were, they brought about, the leader of the group brought about, he was Thomas Stone, who was governor, one of the early governors of Maryland, and he brought about laws on religious freedom in Maryland that are still red letter laws in this country on religious freedom. So this is the kind of research in searching for a family where you place yourself there. We were there, see, and it makes it all more meaningful for us. So,
well, our forefathers certainly set up some traditions that we have
right.
followed all the way through, have we not?
Yes, I think we need to mention the Mayflower Compact, which they had to pass on and draw up on the boat because they were not landing where they were supposed to land, and they had no right to settle where they settled. There were no laws to regulate them. That was unsettled territory. And so before they left the boat, they signed what we know as the Mayflower Compact, which is a freedom document, actually, where they rule themselves. That's what it's all about, that they signed it that they would obey the majority vote on things. And when they were supposed to settle in Virginia, here they were in Massachusetts. And so this was one of the early documents of freedom. But when they faced this hard winter, they had illness and death until their number just died off till less than half. There were a little over 100 that came, and they had just about 50 that made it through that first winter. Mm-hmm. Imagine this wild New England coast up there, and it's cold even in warm weather. And of course, that hard winter, they had to build the homes that they lived in, and so they had to be pretty strong people to make it.
Massachusetts is not a pleasant place today in the wintertime.
No, it is not.
So if you're
it surely
sitting there
is.
without any protection.
No protection. They had to build it from scratch. So we have much to be thankful for that they did this, and then that they realized at the end of that first year that God had been with them. I have said, bringing this kind of feeling down home, I have said 1,000 times that God has been with us in our work on the old jail, because much that has happened there has happened just miraculously. And if we hadn't been doing something right, it couldn't have come about like it has. Well, these people were having it hard too. And this has been the story of humanity, God's children, all these centuries, that if they do the right thing, eventually something will come of it. It may not be in the time we expect it to happen, but it'll come. And so this has come down to us. And when they had seen their efforts progress, they expressed their thanks. I'm not sure we always do. But the bountiful feast that they had with the Indians was evidence that they thanked God for what had happened to them. Now we need to see how that came on down to us.
Okay. We have some records, do we not, on what happened to the pioneers in Texas? And
oh, yes. We have all kinds of letters written at the time pioneers came to Texas, and they brought their customs with them. They didn't go deer hunting for the sport like men have to do now. I mean, they just can't wait for deer season now. Well, they killed deer because they needed the food, mm-hmm. But there were not any deer in this area at that time. Deer hunting in this area is fairly new, you know. We didn't have deer hunting in Panola County until just a very few years ago.
So you told me something I did not. I thought deer hunting was here all along.
No. There were very few deer in East Texas at all. And now, of course, we have pretty plenty, and they have hunting leases all around, but that was not true in the beginning. Now, there were other game, especially squirrels and small game, and they had that. But The interesting thing, as I thought back through the years and read letters from some of the pioneers and some of their reports on having a time of Thanksgiving, they were very religious people also. I mean, the leaders were. We had some outlaws in this country we've talked about, but there were enough religious leaders to take care of the situation and bring it under control eventually. And so they did have church services. Churches were built before they had homes. Out here west of Carthage, toward Henderson, at Fairplay, just past Fairplay, just off of the highway, north of the highway, about a half mile, is Old Williams Cemetery. This is where the Williams family settled, one of the early settlements of the county. And they established a church out there in a log building. And that log building became an everybody's thing. Settlers, we have accounts of settlers coming in and living in that till they could build them a house. So the church was sort of a community thing. And there is a little marker, a little granite slab there telling that this is where the church stood. And that was the beginning of Allison Chapel Church at Fairplay, the oldest continuous church congregation in this county. And they established it in a log church. And this church became really the protection for every family that came in. They'd all gather and help them build a house while they lived, camped in the church building. And so they also, even in pioneer times, realized that they had much to be, they were thankful to get here, and people were so helpful and friendly to them that it didn't take them long to get settled, move out of the church, and then somebody else could move in when they came along. But that was one of the ways that churches were used that tied the communities together. Coming on up a little more recent, as late as 1936, you know, we have in the library the gift copy of the 1936 Texas Almanac that was presented to me at the request of some of our people when the Dallas News came and made this presentation a few years ago. It is enlightening. I have a copy of the first Texas Almanac ever published, and it doesn't have the information about Thanksgiving because there was no law about it then. Mm-hmm. But the 1936 one does have the calendar for Texas, and that was centennial year for Texas. And so it had the Thursday that we have now. Mm-hmm. Thursday the 26th was when it came at that time as the Thanksgiving holiday. But it was still just a custom. It was not an established law ruled by the legislature. And actually, the establishment of the law came in the 50s, I believe. I have the official document here somewhere that tells, here we are, for the calendar for 98, 99, 89, 90, says that Thanksgiving Day in Texas was designated as the fourth Thursday in November by the 55th legislature in 1957. Now, we've been having it a long time before it was definitely set aside as a legal holiday. And then we had some years, and you don't remember that, but a lot of the older people will, when we had two Thanksgivings. There got to be an argument that Thanksgiving was the last Thursday in November, and that got it too close to Christmas. It made such a short time. So Texans started a movement to move Thanksgiving up 1 week. And so for several years there, we had Texas Thanksgiving the third week, and nationally they celebrated it the fourth week, and nobody knew when was Thanksgiving, and so that went on for I remember it happening and how confused we were, and when they'd set school calendars, they didn't know whether to set it for the first Thanksgiving or the last Thanksgiving, and they have fooled around with holidays, you know, until we can't always tell.
Most holidays now are on Monday, whether we want to do that or
Right. But Thanksgiving is one that has not gone to a Monday. It was not on a Friday. That's the way they handle them. You know, if they're on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday, they're on Monday to make a long weekend.
That's right.
But Thanksgiving, mainly in my youth, it was the first big holidays from school. And of course, back in my youth, we didn't have cars to take us everywhere. We did a lot of walking, and we didn't have to practice running. We did enough. Made enough steps to make us healthy as it was. Now we live indoors so much, we have to have a program of exercise, or we'll just dwindle away. But anyway, we had celebrations of a kind, but they were not the kind of celebrations we have now. We didn't have turkey, usually. We had chicken hens and dressing, and I just sat down myself and remembered the things that we didn't have to buy. We had them, but we didn't waste them, except on Thanksgiving we did it all. But it was all stuff that we had. Sweet potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
That's a part of Thanksgiving. We raised our own sweet potatoes and had plenty of them any time. But they were usually just baked, and on Thanksgiving they were candied. Now then, we didn't have all that much sugar to waste, but we did have lovely ribbon cane syrup. And we had syrup pies, candied yams, all this kind of stuff that satisfied the sweet tooth. And all of it, that's ribbon cane. Now, we didn't think that sorghum syrup was good stuff. It had to be the old-fashioned ribbon cane. And every family had a sugar cane patch. And now, of course, we don't even recognize it when we see the stalks of sugar cane. One of the fun things, and I don't want to fail to mention this, of my teen years, was going to the syrup mill, because everybody had a sugar cane patch in the fall around Thanksgiving, because it had, before a killing frost, that had to be cut and carried to the syrup mill. And the man who had the syrup mill charged a percentage of the syrup, and he'd have syrup to sell. But those who brought the cane would have more than enough for the family to use every way in the world. And it was put up in syrup cans, and we don't know anything about syrup cans today, but they were gallon cans that had a good tight lid on them, and it'd keep all year. Okay, going to the syrup mill was a courting thing.
Oh?
And, oh, yes, yes. Sunday afternoons or weekend evenings, we'd go to the syrup mill, and the thing would be cooking, and the smell would be so good, and everybody would drink the sweet juice like drinking Coca-Colas, you know. They strained it. It went, the stalks of cane went through the crush, you know, the cogs that crushed the juice out. That juice went through a strainer, and it had it by the barrels full. And you just put a little cup under it, and it soon filled it, and you had your juice. And of course, then you had your boyfriend or gentleman friend, as the case might be, would peel the cane, and you'd chew the cane. You know, that was great. I just shudder to think how it'd squeak on your teeth. It didn't bother me then, but we did chew that.
I have experience chewing sugar cane, so I can understand what you're saying.
It does sort of squeak.
But it's good, though.
Oh, yeah, real good. Okay, that was one of the main enjoyments we had. in my youth? Well, we had every kind of food you could think of. Fine home-cured hams that were raised on the farm. All right, no trouble for meat then. Chickens and hogs and squirrels from the forest, and had mulligan stew if they wanted it. So the tables, and they had all kinds of dried peas and beans they cooked big pots of, cooked chicken pies, and all this sort of thing. The food was plentiful at Thanksgiving, but it was homegrown. It was not, we didn't have contests on the radio to shoot a turkey and all this sort of thing.
Okay.
But we did visit, and people don't have time to visit much today.
No.
But we did then. I could talk the rest of the day about what it was like in the 1920s, for instance. But let's move forward.
Okay.
We had something special in this county a few years ago. How's our time?
I'm not worried
We're
about
nearly
time.
out.
We're not worried about time because this people are going to enjoy hearing
Something
about this.
special happened in Carthage in 1958. I didn't know whether I could find it or not, but I remembered it personally because Grady and I were in the school system, and I remembered a Thanksgiving Day that our champion football team played a regional game on our new football field, Martin Stadium.
Martin Stadium.
On Thanksgiving Day. Before we knew that they were going to go to quarterfinals that year, and we'll call some names directly of the men who are now responsible citizens all over the country. Before we knew they were going to have that kind of year, our Thanksgiving was planned, and we had homecoming of my family at my house. And of course, we live right across the street from the football stadium, and the ones that I knew were coming, we just automatically got tickets for them because we weren't about to miss that game. In fact, I don't guess Grady missed a game played in that stadium until his health got bad in his last years. Black or white, he went to every game played out there. He loved football that much, and he was for everyone, every local team, no matter. And so I don't know how they pulled that regional game here. But you see, Martin Stadium hadn't been open that many years in 1958. It was a fairly new field still. And the what is now the junior high school was a new building still. And so we had a good record across the state as being a forward-looking school, a real fine school system. So they had played the by-district and won it and brought the regional here. And when other members of my family began to come in, then Grady started looking for tickets. And it was a sellout, of course. And he had a struggle. He had to spot them here and yonder because he had to take tickets wherever he could get them. But we all went to that game, cold as blue blazes. Everybody had to have a blanket. I think we had to strip the beds to have enough blankets for everybody to wrap up in. But we had a great time that Thanksgiving. Now, our team went to quarterfinals that year, and I did find the annual that gave the whole story. I have presented to our library the whole shelf of annuals from the beginning.
Right.
And this is one of them. I didn't remember which one it was in, but I knew it was in the 50s, so I started the search. And so the 1958 quarterfinals, we have the picture and name of all of the men in the team, all of the coaches, and I think you might read the coaches.
Yeah, we'd like to do that. Of course, the athletic director and head coach was Ralph Murph.
Yes.
And he was ably assisted by M.H. Hobson,
Yes.
Coach Hop,
Coach Hop.
and Charles Simmons.
Yes.
Charles coached in later years at both Kilgore and Stephen F.
Right.
Austin.
And then our dear
Coach Willis.
Mr. Willis.
Coach
Yes.
Willis, you and I were talking before we went on there that I always remember Coach Willis always had chalk on his
Oh, yes.
clothes.
Yes, Mr. Willis was a champion math teacher, but he did mess up the classroom with chalk. He got so into his subject that he just scattered that crayon everywhere, and he had his class in my classroom. And I was allergic to chalk dust, so I really had to fight it, but I never fussed at him because he's such a sweet person.
I see. Coach Simmons is the only
one of the four that's living now. Right.
Okay.
And we have a picture here of the tri-captains. I had three captains that year.
Let's see if I can.
And their picture, can you name them?
Well, Bobby Earl Moore's in the middle, and I can't recognize the other two. So let me see if I can come up with them here.
Isn't this the LeGrone boy?
It probably is.
Walter, I think.
Yeah. And I'll see if they named the captains on here, but they.
I don't think they did.
And somebody gives a call and tell us who they are.
Looks like Bobby Bone to me.
I believe you're probably right.
And of course they're standing in front of the trophy case showing the trophies they got. And here's the whole squad.
Yeah, you want to read those?
Well, I think it might be nice.
We'll talk about them.
All right. They in this whole set, and if you have anybody that has an annual for the 1958 team, you'll see them all. But the names are here. Joe Buck was the manager. Walter LeGrone, Muzan Biggs.
Okay, we stopped. Do you know where Walter is now?
No.
I don't either. But I know that Muzan is in Tulsa,
right.
pastor of the Methodist Church.
The biggest Methodist church in America, yes. And Kenneth Woolley.
Kenneth is in Houston, to my knowledge.
In that area somewhere. Bobby Bone, Dale Sistrunk, Randall Bellamy, Mike Rockmore in Houston.
In Houston.
Bobby Moore.
Bobby Moore's pastor in Longview.
Yes, and I think he was one of the quarterbacks.
He was.
Ricky Murr. I think
Ricky's a therapist in Beaumont.
And he was also one of the quarterbacks. Billy Joe Harris.
Billy Joe's out in West Texas, and I can't remember where.
I don't know either. Let's see, Bob Jarvis died recently, last week, I believe, or week before last. Bruce Baker.
Bruce Baker is a doctor in Denver.
In Denver,
a plastic surgeon, by the way.
Plastic surgeon, and I told him that we needed him back here, that I was ready for his kind of work. He says, you thought we'd all get graduated and come back here, and says, we leave you when we get graduated. I said, yes, I can't count on you at all. Then there's Bubba Murr, Jimmy Schamberger, Donald Carrico, Louis Bramlett, right out here. John Conway, Bubba Patterson, Shreveport, doctor.
Dr. Patterson.
I remember saying to Bubba, now you go on and get that doctor's degree and come back here and take care of us old folks. And of course he's close by, but not here. Don Shoemate, Rodney Broach, Bud Marshall, Ralph Edge, Yancey Bounds.
Yancey's back here now.
Don McBride, John Schamberger, Billy Hudson, Kenneth Sinclair, Bobby Sadler, Jim Clark, John Mills, Don Malone, Richard Ballinger, Tom Esco, Royce Anderson, L.H. Chandler, Jimmy Bush, Rodney Broach, Bob Coates, Terry Johnson, and Robert Lawrence. Now I think might tell which ones of these were in the all-district team.
All-district, it says 7 AAA all-district team were Walter LeGrone, and he was a defensive and offensive team. Ricky Murph, defense and offense. Dale Sistrunk was offensive and defensive. Randall Bellamy made it on defense. Mike Rockmore, offense. Bobby Bone on offense and defense. John Conway on defense. And Bud Marshall on defense. By the way, Bud Marshall, out of this group, went to play professional football.
Yes, he sure did. But he's not now.
No, he's in Houston now.
Okay. Well, I thought that this is really something for us to remember as we face another great Thanksgiving
coming up this Friday
game
night.
This week, yes. So it's been a long wait in between, but
and we can turn to these young men that are going to play in this game coming up and say that they have some real great
They have something
heritage.
to reach for,
That's
right. This team that year, what was the year's it climaxed a season of 11 wins, no losses, and one tie.
Carthage tied McKinney 12-12.
In the playoffs.
In the state playoffs.
And they had not lost a game up to there. We had some lean years before that. But that team...
As you talk about that year, I can go back and recall some times, too. That whole year was cold.
Yes.
If that's not the one I remember, one of the first playoff games in that series was played at Tyler, in the Tyler Rose Stadium, probably the first playoff game, and it was...
Right. Well, we have extra warm weather now this really Thanksgiving. Do. We never remember this. All right, we're running out of time, so let's move to this day.
Okay.
We're 1990 now, and we realize that we have much to be thankful for, but we have much to be concerned about also. And so we have a situation where people are beginning to turn to the Lord to say thank you, God, for what we have. And we don't say that enough, but we're saying it some. Last Sunday evening was the biggest crowd ever to attend since I have known, well, since we've had a community service at Thanksgiving, because I think I've been to all of them and helped get them started back a few years ago. The largest attendance we've ever had was this year, and this last Sunday was specially in honor and in prayers for our soldiers who are in the Middle East, in Desert Shield. Mm-hmm. And I think we do recognize that they don't have it so good, and that we certainly need to think of them as we enjoy all of the things we have. Now, we might go on, but this is a glorious season as well as being a good time for us all. The colors have just blossomed out in the last few days, and I didn't think we were going to have a colorful fall this year, and just almost overnight it just happened. It reminded me of a few years ago I took a fall foliage tour, and I wrote poetry all the way because this is what high emotion does for me. I'm a verse writer, and so I thought we might close this morning with 2 or 3 verses from that, which we ought to feel as we face this glorious countryside now, this Thanksgiving. We ought to feel grateful for so many things that have brought us to this point in our lives. And we have every blessing that we could wish for, and we need to stand up and be counted for the good things rather than to complain about the things that are not like we want them to be. And with your permission, I'd like to read 2 or 3 verses from a Sunday spent in Nova Scotia.
Please, please.
First of all, it was a glorious autumn, and we weren't having one here that year. We didn't have the colors so glorious. And there in the autumn, they're just absolutely unbelievably brilliant. And so a Sunday morning spent in that area just thrilled me beyond words, and so I titled it A Sunday in Nova Scotia, and I just pulled out 3 verses. On a cool, bright Sunday morning, along the shore of Fundy Bay, on history's Evangeline Trail, a Texas tour group found its way. What a blessed day to travel. Amazing stops came now and then. Literature from long-time studies came alive for us again. Autumn foliage draping hillsides cheered us on from town to town. Thankful just to be alive, for everywhere was holy ground. And this is really our experience here at this season. We walk on holy ground.
Ms. Williams, thank you for sharing this time
Thank
with
you.
us very much. And to our
Have
listeners,
a happy Thanksgiving.
to you and yours, a beautiful and bountiful Thanksgiving Day.